Mograph TVs. What's up, Paul? What's up, everybody? How's it going? Say something again, Matt.
Check 1 2 1 2.
Thought I heard some echo. Maybe not.
Could it have been because no?
Could have been just feeding back through your headphones. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Paul
is it because
first.
if I have music playing, do you hear that music? Do you hear my system audio? That's what I'm curious about.
I don't know. Shouldn't through them bows.
Yeah. Because I don't know. Thing is, I don't know if my output is set for like.
Well, just play some music.
Play some music.
You know, just play some music. All right.
Let's play something
I should make sure that the bat signal's out. I have not done that.
Yeah.
The bat signal. We got people rolling in.
Okay, do you hear this music?
I don't hear anything.
Okay, good.
Yeah. New gear. New gear Mondays.
Right?
Paul, you got Tokyo.
I started setting up my office last night, with the new shelf and stuff like that. And I was like, I was so tired. It was like 11 o'clock. And I was like, I have to put my computer back together. Otherwise, I'm going to hate myself in the morning. And I've got to at least try and get this working. Because if I can't, and if I couldn't get it to work. So finally, I was like, I'm going to just have Dave help me in the morning.
Emmett Smith is here.
What's up, Emmett Smith?
All right, cool. I got all the things posted on the socials, so I think we're ready to go. Do a little show. Do you have a hard out or anything we need to be aware of? We'll probably go an hour and a half.
I'm good.
Okay, cool.
You the man.
Cool. Yeah. And yes, looks like we're all set. Awesome. Y'all feeling good? Y'all ready?
Dan, are you married yet? You moved to Mexico and
I think Dan just got married.
I think maybe you just did. I don't remember.
What a terrible
It's very important Mograph news that we know this. Anyway.
All right. Looks like we're good here. Y'all ready? Y'all feeling good?
Always.
All right, here we go. What's up and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt. Joining us today, the super talented, our dear friend, the amazing, the wonderful Mr. Christopher Rutledge, otherwise known as Tokyo Megs.
Wow, nice intro. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
And Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. You can email us info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Questions, comments, concerns, queries, grievances, artist suggestions, show topic ideas. Run mograph.com. Mograph.com/live if you want to get all the info. Mograph.com/TV if you want to watch Mograph TV all the time, Or you could check it out at youtube.com/Mograph. We did get the tag. We are at Mograph on YouTube.
Sweet.
So
that's amazing.
That's fun.
Now we just need to get that Twitter dough. Yeah.
Meh. Too late now, right?
Right.
Speaking of which, make sure that you go through our Twitter, if you still have a Twitter account, and find the promo code for Winbush's course. You can get 50% off to the end of November. It's been extended. So don't forget about that. Remember to go get yourself a copy and turn on Mograph TV. Rip the knob off. It's almost time for me to change all the graphics package and things over to the Christmas. Got to put the tree out here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and then leave it up until like February, like you did last year this year, dude. I guess.
And speaking of next week, Jules is going to be on the show next week. So if you
next
have
week,
questions,
I thought it was
the 28th.
After.
The 28th.
Oh, 28th of November, not December.
Yeah, I hope.
I was thinking December, and I'm like, that's weird.
December, I don't think so. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's next week.
That
so,
makes sense.
Make sure you get your questions in. I need to do a little research and get ready for that because there's always
Yeah,
like a
he just
million
presented
questions.
at the Solana thing. I watched that the other night in bed.
I gotta watch that.
Weird.
I gotta
You know,
catch
because
up.
that's what I do in my free time is, watch nerdy stuff in bed.
Right. Anything else on the deal here? We got. This is our Loch Ness Monster episode, by the way. Episode 350.
350.
350. We made
That's
it.
hilarious.
Couple just quick week wrap-up things. First of all, I got a good hack for you. I got a good hack.
Yes.
And maybe some of y'all knew this already, but I certainly didn't. I don't remember if you sent me the TikTok or I sent it to you or
You
whatever.
sent it to me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're copy and pasting a lot of things, sometimes you're like copying two things that you have to go back and forth pasting. Instead of Control V, you hit the Windows Start button key plus V. So Start V instead of Control V, and you will get a list of your recent copies.
Whoa.
So you can just go through and you can copy something and you can copy something and you can copy something and then you hit, Start V or whatever, or Windows V, and then it'll bring up all your stuff.
So you can see
That's
all those
crazy.
links to those
Yeah.
things that you may have been copying earlier that you shouldn't have. So if you open someone's clipboard history, you might
Right.
find something.
Oh man, yeah. When I die, erase my clipboard history.
Yeah. I think it has a limit, but what's cool is you can actually go in there and clear it. We figured that out this morning on Discord.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool because there's a lot of times that you want to just copy maybe parameters or whatever it is, right? And you have to go back and forth, copy it again, copy it a third time. You're going back and forth. Like, this is great. This is awesome. So little hack there. And also, I just got to say, I'm really enjoying the Fire and Pyro in Cinema 4D. It's been great.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I've only played around with it a little bit, and like the ease of use is incredible. Like how easy it is to use is like absolutely incredible. But like if we could just get it like native to other render engines without having to like export a VDB first, that will be a killer feature. And I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it is.
I don't know. Here's the thing. You have to cache it anyway. Even to use it with Redshift, you have to do that, right?
You don't have No, you just
you don't
put a
have to with Redshift?
No, there's a Redshift like Pyro shader or something that you just throw on there.
Oh, it doesn't have to cache.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're taking it to an
Interesting.
external source like Houdini or something like that, then you don't need to.
See, I have to cache anyway. I mean, I want to cache anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's going to be cached. I just throw a freaking VDB Octane loader on it,
Yeah.
It's good to go.
Good to go.
I've been loving it. I had a really massive scene that I had to work through, and the hard part usually, like if you're using TFD or something, you get that big old volume box, right? And it's always going to be that size, even though you have like the adaptive thing. But it was just so easy for me. I've been working on this short. I've never done a short before. Like it's grueling. I've been working on it for weeks, and like my brain hurts, and I'm just trying to get it done. I have 1.5 scenes left, so
that's good.
I did a long scene though, and there's a ton of rockets in it, and they're all flying around, and like the camera's following though. So like the big thing is like if this scene lasts for 120 frames or whatever it is. And plus there's explosions and like everything else going on in the scene, and there's ground fog, and there's just all this stuff, and to be able to sim that part of it and then like put the camera to the side and say, okay, where does this box end? Because if you click on the pyro, not the tag but the other thing, I don't know what it's the pyro,
the pyro solver or something
whatever
like that.
it is. You see that box around it. So it's really cool because you can just adjust parameters until it gets smaller, because it's like I don't need all this information off camera. So it's just so simple to go in there and say, okay, I need this much. Then the sim goes faster because it's not trying to calculate particles. You can adjust your like dissipation so that it kind of falls off, and it's not calculating like a mile back behind the thing that the camera doesn't see anyway.
Right.
So it's just so easy to use. It's so easy to just like save these volumes and use them somewhere else.
They're huge though, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. But you know, that's
Are they?
that's,
How
it's
do they
always like
compare
that.
in size to something, say TFD? You know.
Uh, you know, I really don't know. The thing is that I enjoy having an easy way to manage it. Like I just like being able to bring in that VDB. When you do TFD, if you want to go through all that rigmarole,
Right.
you have to take the BCF,
VBF, I think.
BCF.
BCF, right.
BCF files. I think I got that wrong last week. The
Yeah.
BCF files and convert them. And it only takes a second, but the thing is, like, the file management on that is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
even so, like, these VDBs are still 1 point something gig a frame for me.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this project is probably 800 gig at this point, I think.
I'd be curious to check one of those frames and see, because there's a bunch of different ways that VDB files can be like compressed and reduced and stuff. One obvious thing is like, don't save all of the fields if you don't need them. Like a lot of the times you don't need the velocity field. Like
Right.
that's,
Yeah. I'm
that's
curious
3
if you-
times as big as the.
Can you
as
turn
the
that off
density.
in
Yeah.
cinema?
Well,
You
you
can?
turned it
Yeah.
off in the Pyro solver thing. You
That's
can tell
right.
it what
So
to do.
yeah, okay.
You tell it not to write them out, yeah. And you really only need density if you're doing smoke, and you need density and temperature if you're doing flames and stuff.
Right.
And also, if you do need velocity because you're doing motion blur, a lot of the times what you can do, and some of the softwares do this, and maybe the Pyro and C4D already does this, but they will lower the resolution of the velocity grids because you just don't need that level of detail for the motion blur
Right.
specifically.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, the other thing you can do is I don't know like what like kind of data type specifically they're saving it as, but like if it's if you save it as a 16-bit float VDB instead of a 32-bit or a 64-bit float, it like drastically reduces the file size, and it pretty much keeps the same quality.
Okay.
And I don't know if there are controls to that in C4D or whatever, but I know that I would be curious. What I'm saying is I'd be curious to take one of those, bring it into Houdini, see if reducing it to being a 16-bit float would reduce the file size, because I've been able to get like, I don't know, I've got all these tricks now for VDBs or for Geo or for whatever, for like caching things and reducing the file size of caches, and it's super helpful. But yeah, there's lots of tricks you can use and stuff.
And I have a cache drive, you know, like a specific cache drive for this kind of thing,
too.
and I'll throw it on there. And then when I'm done with a scene, I'll put it in a cache folder inside the project, and I'll unsync it from Dropbox. So it's there just in case I need to pull it back up, but it's not taking up a bunch of, you know, it's like even if you lost it completely and it got deleted, you could always, you know, resim. But some of these sims I've done have actually taken a little while, but it's nothing too complicated, honestly. You know, I'm not doing anything like, I mean, just a little bit of puff of smoke coming out of the back of something really doesn't take that much. It's almost click and drag and drop, and it's good to go. You know, I'm not doing anything crazy. I would love to, maybe when I'm done with this, maybe some downtime in December, sit and play with some of the settings and like maybe render out some comparisons, you know, how things look with different settings, and then maybe try and bring the vector information, the motion vector information back into Octane. See if I can get, you know, do some like twirly smoke and see if I can get those wisps to kind of blur. I haven't played with any of that yet, and I would like to.
Yeah.
But the thing about having the fire and the pyro stuff and everything now in cinema is that it's just easy to kind of go to for that kind of thing, right? Like you got a rocket, you got a little puff of something, just, you know, just run that real quick. And it's here's the thing about fire, and this applies to everything else, right? This applies to fabric, this applies to, I don't know, we've been speculating that liquid's going to be the next thing for Maxon, right? Because it's just like the logical next step in particle sims. And like it's about being able to art direct what you need to art direct. It's like you don't have to be a master at this. It's not that anyone is saying Houdini isn't better at doing certain things, because obviously that's what it's for. It's going to make like a ridiculous particle sim that's like super accurate, and you have like a million nodes to control it and whatever, right? but I don't care about that most of the time. I just need a little something. It is not the main feature of what I'm doing. It's just a supplement. And I don't understand the haters right now.
Yes.
Like, who cares? You are art directing a scene. Who cares?
I mean, this is just like always the thing with any of the fucking softwares or sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
You're fine.
Forget.
You're
Okay,
fine.
Great.
My kid's watching right now, and he just, learned a new word, and I appreciate that.
Excellent. Yeah, if you have kids watching, beware. I might slip up again. But anyway, it's funny. Like, I'm definitely not a fan of C4D anymore personally. Like, I've just gotten so far into Houdini because I don't know, it was just like sort of the path that I went down. And I think there was a point where I was really big on C4D, and I think the main point that I hit a big point of frustration with it was trying to do rigging for characters and stuff. And I was hoping it could replace Maya for me, and I just realized like it just can't. And so I ended up doing a lot more stuff in Houdini also, like for any of the sort of like stuff that I couldn't do in Maya. And then I like was doing like some Mography stuff in C4D for jobs and stuff sometimes, but I got to this point where it was like, for me, like it's definitely like can be quicker to set things up in C4D sometimes for Mograph stuff, but then you hit this ceiling where it's like, if I want to control this thing in a specific way, which is I always would end up getting those notes on projects, I'd be like, I would be so much better off doing this in Houdini, and then I would end up just convincing them to let me do it in Houdini, and then I would move it over to Houdini, and it would be like, this is so much better, but I had to build this thing twice, and blah blah blah.
Right.
Anyway, but like, yeah, people are all going to be super particular about their softwares. Blender heads can be really annoying about that. Houdini people also can be super annoying about it. Like,
you've always been a Maya Houdini person, though. You were never really like a C4D person.
No, I would say I was at a point, because first I was just C4D. Then I got into Maya because I learned that in school. And then I was doing both for a long time at the same time. And then I added on Houdini also, and I was kind of juggling all three of those. And C4D is the one that I dropped first, and then I later ended up dropping Maya once the rigging and stuff tools got really good in Houdini. But I'm also dabbling in Blender a bit now here and there, and I love what Blender's doing and have a lot of things I could say about that. And I think that the past couple of years, and since the Maxon acquisition and things like, or since the Redshift acquisition and things like that, like I've been generally not a fan of what Maxon's been doing, and I don't plan to use it anyway, so it doesn't really matter for me. But I think that what they're doing specifically with the cloth tools and that update and stuff, and with the new Pyro update, are pretty awesome and like fit really well and help to me kind of solidify like, okay, I think I now get what they're trying to do. Like, especially with the change to the name, like Maxon VFX, like it's like, okay, they're trying to sort of be more in the like VFX-y wheelhouse. That makes more sense with the Red Giant acquisition, blah blah blah. Like, I think that's cool. And I think regardless of that, like my opinion on like C4D for a while has also been like, it doesn't matter what app you use. Like at the end of the day, there's people making incredible stuff in whatever app.
Exactly.
Maybe it depends on like what you want to be doing. Like, if you really want to be getting more into character animation, like I would recommend like get more into Blender or Maya, or maybe even like Houdini. I love Houdini for character animation stuff now.
Do you rig in Houdini?
Oh yeah, I love.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I was surprised you said that, because I didn't know it was that good.
Yeah, well, they added these rigging tools called kin effects, like kinematic effects, I guess is sort of the name. And they added that in 18.5, which came out, I think, in October of 2020. Yeah. So like during the pandemic. And so it's still fairly recent. And it's been getting much better every release. But like since they added that, like even since the first version, that has enabled me to like fully switch over to Houdini. And they have this other rigging paradigm that's more like the conventional kind of rigging, but it was always less Houdini-y. Like it was always less like procedural and like more like the same way of building rigs as you would do in like Blender or Maya or C4D, which was just made it so that it was like kind of like Houdini trying to like compete with Maya or whatever on like Maya's sort of like turf.
Right.
And the new rigging tools really make everything more procedural and sort of bring it like into Houdini's ballpark, to the point where it's like you can't even really compare the rigging tools in Houdini to something like Maya anymore, because they're just so different. Like if you're trying to use them the way that you would use Maya tools, like, yeah, they're not going to be as good at that, like yet at least. But if you are taking advantage of the things that you can only do with the rigging tools in Houdini, which I absolutely am, it's like amazing. And it's like, you know, I would be like lying to you if I told you like there aren't elements of rigging and animating in Maya that I miss. But the thing is that there's so many more things that Houdini has sort of added to the rigging and animation stuff for me that I would be missing way more stuff if I were to go back to Maya for rigging and stuff at this point. So yeah, I love it. Like an example I could give you is like, for me, I used to spend a long time like really finessing specific motion and like creating keys for like all the overlap, and then like, you know, I'll animate like the arm moving, and you know, you can like animate like the shoulder joint, and then you rotate like, you know, this joint, and then you rotate like this joint, and so they're all sort of like, you know, rotating like this, right? And then if you offset this one to be like a frame delayed, and then you offset this one to be 2 frames delayed, so it sort of like cascades down the chain, you get a much nicer motion. And that kind of stuff now is stuff that I don't have to keyframe anymore. I can just procedurally set up like a secondary action node that will automatically do that kind of thing for me. Or I can add a jiggle node, and I can just have like a couple of different like specific sort of like keyframes or poses that I'm going between, but then procedurally tweak like how they're sort of going from one pose to the next, and having that control to procedurally tweak it rather than having to like dig in and like do keyframes and stuff if I want to tweak something, or if I get an art director note or whatever, is like amazing, especially for someone who's like trying to do so much more than just character animation and like make whole short films on my own basically. Like it's been awesome. So anyway, that's my sort of ramble about that. But going back to the thing about like C4D and stuff, is it's like, I think one thing that I've noticed is that since moving into Houdini, I have a lot more control, and that's not always necessarily a good thing, because I do end up sometimes going down this rabbit hole of like, let me just tweak this sim a little bit more, let me just tweak this thing a little and so what ends up I've noticed happening for me is that and it's sort of one of those weird sort of side effects of just like, you know, no pun intended, of the way that the software is making you work, is that I get so into that I end up finishing that and I'm happy with it, and I'm like, oh man, it's 11 p.m. like, you know, all right, I guess I'll just like quickly like light this in an hour and then like kick off a render and wake up. And it's like in C4D, I feel like I would have probably spent a lot more time finessing my materials and lighting and whatever, and like spending time on that, and like just getting that base animation in, being like, okay, this is cool, and like, you know, just like giving more love to those other parts of the process. So I don't know, it's a good exercise to like cut yourself off from those things, you know, if you are supposed to do, you know, the whole sort of pipeline yourself, and you don't want to like, you know, necessarily like spend way too much digging into one specific detail. But yeah, but I feel like, you know, you see people in C4D with just like absolutely beautiful lighting and shaders and all that stuff, because they are spending a little bit more time maybe finessing that stuff, and less time less time super finessing like a simulation or a you know, piece of animation or a procedural, you know, Mograph setup or whatever. But it you know, it just depends also. That's just the sort of thing that I've observed. But I love the direction that Maxon is taking now with these new tools. Like, I think that's great. You mentioned liquids you think is next. I think
that's what I'm thinking. I think
they that a clear, obvious one that I'm surprised they haven't done yet is just like straight up just like particles. Like,
I agree. I mean, if they were to completely rework the thinking particles or whatever with regular particles, you know, like the fact that I have to jump to X particles in order to do particles with trails and stuff like that, it's like, why do I need to do that? You know, that should be like, that's the most basic thing that I use particles for. You know?
This is why we're not on the beta, because then we can speculate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on the beta, I just don't ever go on, you know, so I know nothing.
I mean, being able to advect particles with pyro and stuff like that
Yeah.
seems super clutch. That seems like one of the biggest things missing that people like to do with Houdini or like to do with X particles or whatever. And fluids like liquids specifically like flip fluids like are like fluid implicit particles. So they are a combination of basically what pyro is, which is like, you know, fluid simulation. And just like regular particles and like combining the aspects of those two. So it makes sense that like particles and pyro would be the two building blocks to then be able to do fluids, which is sort of like the most kind of complex type of, you know, physics simulation.
But they've
thing.
been working on this for a long time. Like, and that's the thing. People, you know, Ariane, I hope I'm saying that right, in the chat says, you know, they were asleep at the wheel from 21 to 2023, but we've, you know, they've been telling us that they're working on this, the new core, all this, you know, stuff for a while. We knew it was building to something. I think we're finally starting to see what that is, because it is it's a long burn, you know. I mean, I'm sure that there's just so much. I mean, there's just a crazy amount of work. Even if they had these ideas 5 years ago, it would, you know, it takes a long time to build that up and do whatever you have to do to accomplish those goals.
But also at the same time, like, it is really good, I think, that they are building this stuff from scratch themselves. I think that's really important. That's how you make your software cohesive and not a Frankenstein mess. And like, you know, if they were if they were just buying TFD and integrating that, like, I would be super against that. Yeah,
because this is like their new system that they've been developing this whole time.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
And
it's
like Chris in the chat, I agree. They do need a faster viewport. Like,
my god,
that's one thing
of the biggest
that
things.
like
that I last time I was using it.
Yeah, it's like I will get super bogged down with if I have too much stuff in the viewport.
Yeah, I gotta turn layers off and
it's it seems like that's a vital skill in C4D, is being able to like set up stuff so you can turn off all the heavy things and make your viewport workable. That's definitely like one of the things that really got me off of C4D. Like finally, I think, was like, I just can't deal with the viewport anymore.
But I think that's part of this whole thing that they're working on, right? I mean, isn't this new system going to make everything eventually come over and work faster? I'd imagine so.
I hope so.
Hope so. But again, but here's the thing: it's about the storytelling. Like, we've all met that person, and I feel like I was this person for many, many years, where all I wanted to know was all the technical details. Well, now this can do this thing, and now I can do this way, but I just wasn't applying that to like storytelling or doing, you know, just like stop thinking about all the technical stuff and think about like actual storytelling. Like, you got technical artists and you've got like the creative artists, right? And we've always kind of talked about that. Some people, that's their thing. They want to be the technical artist. You tell me what to do, I'll technically figure it out. And then there's other people that are like, oh, I'm an artist, I want to do this thing, I have no idea how to do it. I'm gonna have to get help doing this or whatever. If you become a storyteller, you're going to be sitting in the software that you can tell the story in the easiest. It's going to be the path of least resistance, whatever it is. So if it's Blender, if it's C4D, if it's Houdini, you want to sit down and just do the art. You don't have to think about it as much. And when you get a tool like this to add something easily, real simple, and just go about finishing to tell your story, and people are like, well, technically that's not physically accurate because particles only move it. Who cares?
100%.
Who cares? Oh, I could do that in Houdini in 2 seconds. You could, but I can't. So shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you could, but you didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, who cares? I'm just trying to tell a story. Like, sometimes it does not matter, but you can still understand the importance of why you would go to Houdini for something ridiculous or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the direction that Maxon's going in with the VFX stuff and making all these things built in now is good. And I think part of the idea of it is like, I mean, to me, anytime anyone was ever like, hey guys, I'm a C4D person, like, should I get into X particles? My thing would be like, no, just learn Houdini, because it's cheaper to get a license of Houdini
Here's the
than
thing,
X
they are
particles.
two totally different beasts, though.
I know.
Like,
I hear you.
here's the thing. I have used X particles a lot, and I've gone through Mark's entire, Houdini course and stuff like that. And I find that just throwing X particles into a scene and doing the things that I need, minus smoke and fire, because they're just awful in X particles, like that's when you go to TFD for that, but
Right.
like having to move back and forth, and then it's one of those things where it's like,
I understand why Houdini is better at particles.
oh
I
yeah,
just don't want to have
get
to
me
learn
wrong.
Houdini
The stuff-
again every time I need
think
something.
I think when it comes to like smoke and fire and destruction and like all that stuff, Houdini looks better than anything that I've found. It looks more realistic. But it's like, if I need something quick, I'm just gonna throw into X particles.
Right.
Right, but
agree.
even before that, I feel like my sort of point about it is that it's like you're sort of learning the same things either way. Like, I don't think
True.
it is.
It's
I don't personally think it's much harder to learn Houdini than it is to learn X particles. Like, especially if you're just using it to be an X particles for you. Like, it's like you just need to learn those specific parts of Houdini, and that's basically just as hard as learning X particles, except for that you also have to learn some interface stuff to like get that part of Houdini.
Right.
And I
That's the
think-
hardest part
I
for
think
me.
the interface stuff for me has been the hardest.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like, because when you create a pop solver or whatever, you not only have your geometry node that you have to deal with, but you've also got the pop solver node and stuff like that. So you're having to hop inside different nodes, and I can never remember where things go and what they do.
Right.
That's my hardest thing with Houdini versus it all just being in one centralized location. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
like, for
Like
example,
just
if
an
you
attribute manager or something like that.
if you got a job tomorrow doing Houdini stuff, and be like, well, I know a little bit of Houdini, and they're like, no, that's cool. We're gonna bring you on. We're gonna let you learn on the job, whatever it is. After a couple months, you probably be like, oh,
Absolutely.
hell yeah, Houdini,
Yeah.
right? But it's that thing where, like, at what point do you decide that you're gonna put in the 10,000 hours on something, or
Yeah.
are you just gonna stay over here?
I think though, like if you're at that point where you're like, I've learned C4D and I want to learn simulations and stuff, then the thing is that you're then making this decision on a couple different vectors. Like, one is like, what do I want to spend money on? Like X Particles license that used to be like $700 or whatever. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is now.
God
Or free version of Houdini / $200 a year version of Houdini, and then that also gets me in the door with Houdini. That's like the decision tree you're kind of making, and it's
Yeah.
sort of like, I think a lot of people at that point were deciding, I'm just going to go with Houdini instead of spending the money on this X Particles.
I will 100% say that if you were deciding to go into, VFX, smoke, liquid, stuff like that, if that is the route you want to go, absolutely 100% go to Houdini,
Right.
But it's like, if you're creating logos and blah blah blah, and you just want to add a little bit of like particles or like a little bit of smoke or something, I don't think there's a whole reason to learn a whole new system just for those little things.
And that's
You
why
know,
I
Unless you're
don't
curious
understand.
about getting
Unless
more
you're curious about it,
Houdini
absolutely.
stuff. Yeah,
To
yeah.
each their own.
And
Yeah.
And I think that, again, like all of this, the point here, I think, is just to sort of say, like, now the answer to what do I do once you get to that point is like, we'll just start learning the C4E stuff first, like, and then maybe you never need to get into Houdini. And then I think that will maybe help Maxon with the sort of like people that are
On the fence.
getting into Houdini with the gateway of like, I want to learn some effect stuff. Like, now they don't necessarily have to, and it's just better for them to have this stuff built in. And the other thing I was going to say also is that since Maxon's building this stuff from the ground up, I mean, there's a big thing with all of this software of like, when was this system built, and like, was it like also maintained and upkept and all this stuff? Because like the Houdini Pyro system is like much older than the Maxon system, which was built up from the ground up on like the freshest technology, on like sparse solvers and GPU acceleration and all this stuff. And it's like, if someone were to make an After Effects competitor today, it would be so much faster than After Effects because like they built that
Not
so long ago.
band-aided code.
Yeah, they haven't upkept it well. Now Houdini,
Yeah.
they have added sparse solving, they've added GPU, acceleration, all this stuff, but that's just it's never going to be as good as or as quite as efficient, as a system that's like built completely from the scratch, from the ground up in 2022 or whatever current year it is. So
Right.
so that aspect of it is also like pretty sweet on the Maxon side, and conversely, I think Houdini's benefiting from that a lot right now with their render engine that has been built from the ground up, super modern, super recently, with like Karma and Karma XPU specifically, which are built on top of Material X as a standard and built on top of USD. And also, like, there was this point a couple of years ago where all the render engines were having to basically rebuild the entire engine from scratch using the optics ray tracing libraries and stuff. Like Redshift spent a long time doing that. Octane spent a long time doing that because they built their engines before optics was a thing. But Side Effects was able to just build their engine from the beginning with optics because they built it within the past couple of years.
Right.
So all of that stuff is like a huge benefit to that software. So I guess that whole point there is just like, building a software from the ground up, any like as recently as possible is going to be, you're going to gain a lot of benefits from
Right.
that you don't
absolutely.
for any software that's just old,
Yeah.
And I think people like us understand that. We understand the reason to go one way or the other. We understand why people prefer something. But if you were going to do a sim and you're like, I'm going to do this in Houdini, I wouldn't be like, oh, F that. Cinema's the best because it has this now and I use it.
Yeah.
It's like the whole, what I don't understand is the whole gatekeeping thing. Like half the internet's like, oh, these new pyro tools are badass, and the other half is hating on it because reasons. It's just, it's like, no, like the
best
gatekeeping just drives me
software-
nuts. Like, why?
Yeah, the best software is the one that you know how to use and you know how to make good stuff with.
Right.
Like, end of story. That's always going to be the case. Is it worth learning new softwares? It's always worth learning new softwares and dabbling in Houdini or Blender or whatever the new thing is at any given point. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement here on
Yeah.
that. So.
We can still
That's
be
right.
friends, even though you use Houdini and I use Cinema 4D.
Absolutely. And I will complain about various software companies all day, but at the end of it, and I have nothing but respect for the people who make amazing things.
100%.
regardless of the software.
That's the
100%.
other thing. There are people online crapping on things, and I'm like, these people.
Yeah.
Know these people personally who are working on these things and working hard every day on these things to make them better. And the first thing
Yeah.
that you do out the gate is crap on their 3 years of work they put into it or whatever.
Right, and I would say also that the same thing goes big time for like big feature film projects. I will like crap on like Pixar movies or like whatever, like any given year. Like this latest Pixar trailer, I was like, oh, give me a fucking break with the elemental thing. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, but you're very excited for Pixar's Mario movie, right?
Yeah, Pixar's
Oh, yeah.
Mario movie. I saw
I can't wait for that one. Yeah.
your TikToks, man. I genuinely sometimes cannot tell if you're being sarcastic or
Yeah.
super dry.
Chances are, if I'm not talking about something like Houdini or Blender or CG software or whatever, I'm pretty much usually being silly. But
I send you
I just
every
love your-
Mario TikTok I
know.
find.
I
I
do
send
the
it to
same
you.
thing.
I also send you a bunch of Shrek TikToks for some reason.
I love those. You know what's funny is yesterday I was like, I would love it if someone made a Shrek skin on Mario 64, and then I googled it and it exists, and I was like,
Oh, of
this
course.
is amazing. I have to play this on a stream or something. This
It's
is so
funny.
rule 34. It's rule 35 of the
Rule
internet.
35.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rule 35.
The thing that I love about your TikToks, besides them being dry, is just like that you do the things that other TikTokers do. Like, I don't know, guys, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. That kind of a
yeah.
thing. It's so freaking hilarious, dude. You just do it so straight face,
Thanks.
and
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, this has always been a problem for me, is because I feel like I just have very monotone speaking and delivery and stuff that I always get people thinking that I'm joking when I'm being serious, and people thinking that I'm being serious when I'm joking.
Yeah.
I don't know if that ever happens to you guys, but
No.
but yeah.
I show my emotions on my sleeve. They always know what I feel.
But the point that I was going to make before that was that like I have nothing but massive respect for all of the artists working at companies like Pixar or Disney or like on like, you know, the Lion King movie like remake. Like I could shit on that movie like, you know, all day, but like it is from a technical standpoint something that I can also really appreciate, and like I'm blown away by the artists that, and I like anytime I'm ever criticizing anything like that, like it is, I'm not going to necessarily caveat it, but like it's important to caveat that like, you know, you got to respect those people doing that incredible work on these projects, you know, that they don't have the control over like the story for or the directing or whatever. And you know, I'm trying to punch up at the studios, but I'm never trying to punch sideways or downwards or slightly up at the artists, you know. So
yeah, you're not gonna be able to blame the artist for, you know, the script being awful, you know. I mean,
right.
Absolutely.
When what's the name of the one that's coming out? What's the new Pixar one called?
Elemental.
And so it's just like kind of
what if first they did what if toys had feelings, and then they did what if cars had feelings, and then it was what if feelings had feelings. Now it's what if elements had feelings.
Yeah That's how it works. But the thing that I've seen is people saying it doesn't look that great, it's just kind of meh. But then half the people I see saying something about it are saying it just because there's an LGBT character in it. So like
yeah, well, that's a whole other thing too, is just like it's weird because I feel like there's, you know, obviously the backlash from like, you know, conservative people about anytime there's like mention of an LGBT character. At the same time, there was that movie Luca, which I was really not a fan of, but they really marketed it a lot in the US as this is like a gay coming of age story between these kids and whatever. There's all these gay but that's the thing, is it's not like, they just are saying that in the marketing to try to sell it more to like the sort of like LGBT, you know, scene in the US and stuff, versus in China where they're going to have backlash against that kind of thing. Like they don't actually put it in the movie. It's just like they're trying to like appeal to everybody, and they're sort of like lying about it in the marketing in this weird way. And I don't know, my frustration mainly with a lot of these companies in the movies is just that like obviously they're big corporations, they don't want to take risks, and they're doing the same thing over and over again, which I'm super sick of. But you know, again, those are things that the artists working there don't have control of.
The movie business is different nowadays, you know, like they're only going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, if they know they can get a return on investment. The stuff that used to happen where it was a $30 million budget or whatever, they just don't, it doesn't happen anymore.
It's
those
so different.
Go to Netflix, those go to, you know, TV and stuff like that, you know, those become, you know, episodes and stuff.
I feel like there's potential for it to change too with animated films now that animation software and tools and stuff have all become so much more accessible. I think you could see someone like a Blumhouse or an A24 putting out more animated features that are made on like, you know, $5-10 million budgets. And you know, there was that movie Marcel the Shell that came out recently.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I haven't seen it. No,
I didn't see it.
think it's interesting that they took a meme from like 10 years ago or whatever and turned it into a full length.
It was very odd, but I heard it was incredible, and it visually
I've heard nothing but
great.
Good things about it.
Watch the trailer if you haven't. It seems really, really good. I mean, especially since you guys have kids, I would say definitely perfect thing to, you know, watch with the kids. But I'm probably gonna try to check it out with my family over the holidays. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential for like more unique, interesting, more kind of independent leaning animation stuff to come out that isn't just the Disney Pixar thing over and over again done by them and Illumination, DreamWorks or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you know, now that Bob Paycheck has left Disney and Bob
the other
Bob Iger came back, curious to see how it all happens.
Yeah.
Is that just announced this morning, or Just today,
yesterday.
right?
Last
Yesterday.
night.
Yeah.
Last night. Okay. Yeah. So what have you been doing, man? We have not like been able to hang out in person or online
Yeah,
or
the
anything.
last time you and I hung out was at the Otoy party about a year ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on my birthday and the day after your birthday,
yeah.
or was it
What day is your
That's
birthday?
right.
The 2nd?
That's right.
December 4th.
Oh, December
Yeah.
14th.
Yeah,
We should
you-
go to
you
Disneyland
and,
for your birthday this year. I'll be there.
Yeah, nice.
You and Winbush have the same birthday.
Yeah,
I
you and
think.
Winbush have the same birthday.
Yes, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I met him for the first time then as well. Yeah, that was a super fun time. What have I been up to? Good question.
As much as you can say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can say literally today we're delivering this project that I've been working on for 2.5 years, a little bit, but mostly in production on. It was pre-production until April, and then April through now, it's been pretty much a full-time thing. With the exception of I took a few weeks off to go to some like animation festivals that I had some work playing at, which was super fun.
That's cool.
But we just delivered today. It's a TV pilot. You'll all see it soon, hopefully, or you'll be able to see it soon. You know, whether you choose to watch it is not going to force anyone to watch it. But
Okay.
but yeah, I'm excited for people to see it. It's a big kind of group project. I was sort of leading the animation on, and yeah, I can't say much more about it, but it's a huge relief to finally be done with that and be able to work on some other stuff and work on some fun projects and stuff. I've barely been able to do that since like April. In October, I did a little bit of a Blobtober, which is sort of like an alternative to Inktober, where I was making some renders like here and there, which was super, super fun. And one of them ended up like going crazy on TikTok, where I used a TikTok sound. Yeah, it got like, it shot up I got like, I think it's at like 3 million views now, and it shot up. It shot up from, which that can just happen on TikTok. So, like TikTok is such a crazy platform.
Yeah.
We should definitely talk more about that, because I'm really into that whole thing.
Is it the what can I do to get you behind the wheel? The new
Yes,
Honda.
the car salesman one, and this is one where I was doing the animation. Yeah, there you go. I was doing the animation using the KineFX tools.
Oh,
that I was
yes.
just talking about.
I did see this.
I did a whole bunch of different poses, and then I used this like jiggle node that I made to slightly kind of interpolate between the poses, but just barely, like slightly. Like there's a little bit of just sort of like sort of padding on each of the frames. So like it's just kind of a fun, weird stylized movement.
Yeah, it's that kind of like techno-y song that has like the bunch of chops in it and stuff, right?
Yeah, like a drum and bass thing. Yeah, and I made this with some friends who are in the Netherlands. They're this duo named Yonk, Niels and Victoria. They're super sick. They do lots of VR sculpting. Highly recommend checking their stuff out. YONK. But anyway, we did a stream where we were sculpting together, and they did the character, and then I did all the sort of animation and rendering and stuff.
I love the face and like how like. You know, like
chatty
what is
he
that?
gets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like,
super chad.
What is it? The Squidward.
Handsome Squidward.
Handsome Squidward. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's definitely a Chad Handsome Squidward vibe.
Right.
Yeah. God, 3 million views. And how does it happen? It's like
and that brought my followers up from like I think like 6,000 to 30K now. It's like insane.
Wow.
God. But the double-edged sword there is sort of that, like, I mean, so
now you're a little bit more nervous to talk about like Pixar's new version of Mario.
Oh no! I don't care about that at all. But I think that the double-edged sword with TikTok is that it's like one of the cool things about it is that it is really heavily recommendation based as opposed to being like feed follower based. So it's not like you're being shown stuff by people that you follow all the time. You're mostly being shown stuff by people you don't follow and stuff that is being recommended to you. And the cool thing with TikTok is that the way that it works, my understanding basically, is that you post something and it will start showing these 2 random people in the For You page. And so like people that don't follow you will see your posts, and if it performs well, I think if it has a good retention rate,
it goes to an outer circle after that, right? Like it goes to a bigger group.
they say we're going to send this to more people, and if it keeps performing well, they keep boosting it, and then more and more people see it, and then you can get a lot of discovery that way, which is like really, really awesome, obviously. But the downside of this is that even if you gain a ton of followers from it, that doesn't mean that your next post is going to have a ton of eyeballs on it. It might have way less than the number of followers you have. Maybe very few of your followers will end up seeing it. But at the end,
the thing is, it's like, because how do you scroll TikTok? Do you just stay on the For You page and swipe, or do you go to the For You, you know, where these are all the actual people that you follow? What I find is that I go, you know, for the For You page, you know, for a while, and I'm like, I haven't heard this person in a while. I'll go over to the following one, and I'll just swipe through, you know, and get caught up.
They want you to be super
TikTok,
random.
I think TikTok sees the ones, like the people that you follow, that you'll actually sit all the way through, like every time. Like I think his name is Rusty Van Ranch, right, or whatever. Right. He did the tug ski, the little jet ski that he took like a kid's like sand thing that looked like a boat, and he turned it into a jet ski. Anyway, I followed him from the very beginning, and I don't know any of the stuff that he's talking about, but I love seeing his projects, and it will show me every single time, versus some other people that I follow, you know, I specifically have to go to their page in order to look at.
Have you noticed recently, this has been happening to me more and more lately, when you go to share something, it first brings up random people and not the people that you shared with recently, and you have to click off of it and click on again, and then the most recent people you've shared with happens. And I swear it's happening because they want you to, because they'll just bring up random other people that I'm friends with.
Yeah,
but like not my recent
ones. Are you connected to? Did you connect it to your contacts in your phone?
No. Oh God, no.
Okay.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, let's say I'm following 100 people, and I always send the same things to like a group of 5 people. It's like you, my friend Adrian. I send it to Julie, my daughter, and Rev. That's usually who I send stuff to, right?
Right.
Well, every like 5 or 6 times I go up to share, it just shows random other people that I'm friends with. So I'll be like, oh yeah, those people exist, and send them to them. I swear they're doing that on purpose.
Weird.
You know, I swear they do stuff like that. I don't know, but the thing that I hear about TikTok is if you do go viral, like your post, right, you might get a bunch of followers from that, and like you said, they're not necessarily going to see it. I think sometimes they will send it out to that small group of people first, some of them, and see, but like it's weird. It's like you have to be prepared to be that genre on your account. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why everybody's like, if you want to try like 4 or 5 different types of things, make a TikTok account for each one, because once one of them hits and you become that guy, you gotta be that guy. You can't go back to like talking about sports because your animation went viral. That's what people want now.
Yeah, they might be right about that. I'm definitely gonna just keep doing everything all on one page, I think, but it's I think it's a good point, though, that like one of the things that you need to be careful with is like trying to make sure you're not posting a lot of stuff that is just kind of not like engaging, or like trying to do
posting.
Like shit, like shit posting that, I mean, anything that, like, I don't know, like
that's what stories are for.
Right.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. I'll see a lot of people complaining that they're like, I have 100K followers on TikTok, and like only my videos are only getting like 800 views per thing, like I'm shadow banned or whatever. And it's like, you know, reality, like you're not actually shadow banned. What's happening is TikTok is seeing you posting a lot of stuff that nobody's engaging with, and they're not showing your stuff to people anymore. And so you've screwed yourself over by posting so much stuff that just like is not hitting, you know, the way that like some of your other stuff earlier on did. So I think if you post too much and it's too boring, that TikTok will sort of like recommend your stuff less and less.
You also want to repost things. Like if you like, let's say you got like 1,000 posts, 1,000 hits on something, right? And you're like, oh, that's okay. And then like a year later, you're doing a lot better, and maybe your videos are getting 10,000 hits a piece. You're supposed to delete the old ones and repost them. And if it doesn't gain traction that day, repost it again the next day. Repost it
Man,
again. Like,
you know
keep
what?
reposting it.
I had a girl that I followed. She was on Lego Masters, and she would do the same thing every single day. And I saw
Well, you don't
every
want it
single
that
one of
much,
them,
but yeah.
and it was so annoying that I finally said, seriously, and stopped following her.
Right.
Right.
Like-
and TikTok sees you looking at that thing for 1 second and immediately skipping and being like,
Yeah.
okay, we're not gonna like show this person stuff as much
Yeah.
because they
Yep.
clearly are sick of it,
It's all about the engagement. It's like, even if you have a friend, like for you for example, if you post something, I give you the like, but I'll sit there and like I'm gonna watch the whole thing, so that you get the good credit for it.
Me
Not
too.
just
Yeah,
the
yeah,
like.
yeah.
I'm not gonna
Totally.
stop it. 3 seconds before it's done. I'm gonna let the whole thing play out.
That's
because-
a key thing. Yeah.
That's
Like-
why people do the looping ones, where it
Yeah.
loops perfectly and starts over,
And
to
so-
get people
watch
to.
it more by
Yeah,
accident.
yeah.
Yeah. If you're
Well, I
doing
mean,
an animation,
Oh, it makes sense.
keep your
Yeah.
loops short. I mean, you want to put a couple loops in the video, but you don't want to do like 10 loops. You want to do like 3 short loops. And then if you're posting, the ones that have something that has like a paragraph of text over it, you make that only a couple seconds long,
Right.
so that they have to
Right,
watch
right,
it 10
right.
times.
100%. Yeah. No,
TikTok
totally.
has.
Yeah, TikTok is so funny, and it's but I think ultimately, I really like that it exists and that it is a platform where you don't need to grind forever to necessarily get like a viral post or like get a bunch of followers or whatever. Like it really does kind of give everyone a chance in a way that like
Yeah.
Instagram and Twitter don't really let you do as much.
Reels do
Um,
now. Reels do pretty well for me.
Reels can. I think Reels are definitely weaker than TikTok, and YouTube also has been doing this since before all of them, like with the recommendation, with
Right.
like my little brother makes like video essays, and enough people were watching one of his video essays on Metal Gear Solid, and like some other anime ones, like for long enough, like people were getting 2+ hours into his video essays because they really liked them. And then they started getting recommended to everyone after like they'd watch any video about Metal Gear Solid, and now he's got
Yeah.
like millions of plays on his video essays and stuff. And so I think that's a good sort of system. The like checking people's sort of engagement and then recommending those things more, even though just like everything, it can be abused.
But the people that followed you, like yours went viral. You didn't do anything in particular to make it go that way. You have like one hashtag that says Houdini, so you're not getting Houdini follows. You're getting people who are enjoying the story and not the Houdini, right?
100%. Yeah. And there's other kinds of content that I think do well on TikTok. One thing that I also did with that was I made that using a TikTok sound that was linked to the video. Like, and I think that kind of helped it a bit too. Also, it being really short and like something that a lot of people would watch all the way through, like helped a lot too.
Yes.
The other one that I did that did really well was one that I made like a year ago that was like the Bing Bong, Bing Bong, fuck your life.
Right,
like,
right.
Meme that was like a thing a year ago that I was just like, I just want to animate a character to this. And that one did super well and got me my first couple thousand followers on TikTok. But like, it's really just been those 2 posts that have like really gone viral, and a few others have gotten like, tens of thousands of views on there. But those are the 2 ones that like blew up like crazy and got me most of the following.
The music makes a big difference. Like in some of like I guess you would call them shit posts, the stories that I've been putting out while I've been working on this thing, I have been selecting different pieces of music depending on the platform. Like I've been picking music I like for my Instagram story because who cares? It's something that I've been enjoying listening to recently. But if I go to TikTok, I pick one of the trending sounds for that reason.
Yeah, totally. And it is fun also to look like at the TikTok sounds and like think like, would this be a fun thing to make a little dumb animation to? Like that's been a really fun kind of exercise for me. Someone should do.
I like that.
You should. I would highly recommend trying this at some point. But also, someone should do like a Inktober type thing where it's all just different like sounds instead of it being like sounds that you can make an animation or a video to or whatever. I think someone should do this. I I would be a big fan of that if someone did that. I think that'd be really cool.
That would be fun.
Talktober, maybe, I don't know.
Talktober, yeah.
But yeah, I would, yeah. But definitely recommend everyone, like, if you want ideas for like a silly thing to make, and you want to maybe try to make something go viral on TikTok, think of a funny animation you can make to an existing TikTok sound. That was sort of the key with those two that went viral that I did. But also at the same time, another thing that does really well on TikTok is, especially if you have a cool piece of art or something that you made that like isn't necessarily like a super engaging like thing that people are going to play through a million times. Like if you, like, for example, the Metroid thing that you're working on, I think is like super, super cool. And a great idea was what Dave said earlier, to post that alongside
with
the original. Like,
yeah.
look at these two together, like, but also like doing a behind the scenes on TikTok always works really well. Like being like, here's how I made this cool thing, and showing as quickly as you can, like, kind of the tricks to doing that or whatever.
And using trends to present it, right? Like if someone's if there's like a certain trend going on that week, reverse engineer it. How can I apply this to animation? How could I apply this idea to this? That always helps.
Yeah.
Have you seen the TikTok creator who takes TikTok videos and then recreates them in CGI?
Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah.
It's interesting because half the time I can't even tell which is which.
I know. Yeah, he does a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how does he recreate them? And it's just like outdoor
scenes? He does everything in CG. Yeah.
But what about
in
people?
3D?
They're like the most random videos.
He doesn't always use people. It's mostly like if there's like a hand or something. I don't know. It's interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, another thing I do
Next
too
time I
on
find one,
any
I'll
of
have to
these,
send it over to you.
whether it's a story or whatever it is, now you think about people's attention spans. Even if I'm posting a behind the scenes of something with like music or whatever, I'm going to first post a couple seconds of the final product, then go to the behind the scenes, don't linger on it too long, then go back to some of the render, because people are going to see it. If people see just screens, I'm telling you, anytime I see like somebody doing a time lapse on TikTok and cinema, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Like they try and shrink their screen down to the size of TikTok, and you can barely see what they're doing, and it's going too fast, and it lasts for 2 minutes. I'm not going to sit there and watch that on TikTok. I'll watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. It's a really good idea though, to definitely like just crop your things in a way where they do play nicely on TikTok. Like what I usually do is if I make a 16:9 thing, I crop it in where I'm not cropping it to be 9:16, because then that would crop way too much stuff out of it. But I am like cutting a fair bit of the sides off, maybe making it kind of more square or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that definitely helps, because like obviously like people are more likely to skip something that's really small on their screen or whatever.
Also, the algorithm knows. The algorithm, I have heard that it sees a 16:9 letterbox thing, and it just dumps it.
I'm sure it sees that. I'm sure that the Reels algorithm sees if you have the TikTok watermark and things like that.
It
like,
does.
That's funny.
Like
about that.
Yeah, there's
so
all kinds of.
If I'm taking a TikTok and I'm putting it onto Instagram Reel, I will put a sticker over the logo or whatever.
That's
I
funny.
don't know if it helps in that aspect. The other thing I do is, because I'm not writing the text on it on one app or the other, because the text is already in the saved video, I'll write that text, and if you push it over enough on the screen, it goes off the screen, but the algorithm still sees text that it can pull in.
Yeah,
TikTok
and then
hacks.
you wonder, does the algorithm know, like, they
that
pushed the text
that.
off the screen, that they're hacking? Like, it's just like, there's so much shit. You know,
one step ahead of me.
I don't know, but yeah, I love TikTok. It's so much fun.
So what besides TikTok?
Completely off.
There's so much more.
Behind you, I see you've got Deadline going. Is that correct?
I do, yeah.
Talk to me about Deadline. Let's talk some tech right now.
I hate
Deadline. You hate it?
I hear that from everybody pretty much, but
yeah, I just don't like figuring that kind of stuff out at all.
Yeah.
I had someone basically set it up for me.
What render engine do you use on a normal basis?
What render engine, bro?
So I am, for this project, using Redshift, which I'm incredibly ready to be done with forever.
Okay. And what do you want to move to?
Karma. I'm really all in on Karma.
Yeah,
I the last couple renders that I did, like the TikTok one and the last couple ones, those were all done with Karma XPU.
Okay. That's their GPU renderer, right? Or It
Yeah,
does
they're
GPU and
XPU
CPU.
render. Yeah, it does
Okay.
GPU and CPU exactly.
Okay.
So it's one renderer, and you can render with just GPU, you can render with just CPU, or you can render with both.
Right.
So it can render on a render farm that has only CPUs, or it can render on your main machine. The XPU is so nice because it's also like you get the benefits of both, where like you get the quick time to first pixel, which is so key with CPU engines. Like using Octane. Octane's the least bad about this, but it still isn't great. Like the startup time with Octane. Redshift
It used to be
really
bad, really bad. Now it's a lot better than it used to be, at least. So
Redshift is definitely awful with it, and so is Arnold GPU, which is why if you're look stepping with Arnold, you really want to use CPU because it's so much faster to start up. But that said, if you're rendering final frames or you're waiting for things to get like really clean, Arnold GPU is much faster than Arnold CPU for that. But with XPU, it's like both are good. The first people that did XPU, I think, was RenderMan, and I still want to mess around with RenderMan like at some point. But also I think V-Ray has it, and like Karma is going pretty much all in on GPU. They're using optics for NVIDIA stuff for NVIDIA GPUs, and they're using Embry, which is like this Intel ray tracing library. It's kind of like optics but for CPU. So the two of those give the exact same results, so they just kind of like have all of your processors kind of rendering on it together.
It's only in Houdini, right?
It's only in Houdini, yeah. Actually, I think that because it is a Hydra delegate, that technically any software that supports like Hydra and like USD and stuff like that can in theory work with Karma. Like I think that I've seen someone using it in like NVIDIA Omniverse at some point. I could be wrong about that, but I think that may be the case.
I'll have to ask Jules about that next week.
Yeah, I would be super curious. Yeah, I'll definitely tune in for that one and be bugging you guys in the chat if you don't remember to ask him about that. But yeah, Karma is amazing though. I've been loving it. It's still in beta, so it's not 100% there, but for me it's pretty much perfect at the moment. It has everything that I need. Doesn't have all of the different kinds of AOVs you could possibly need, or you know, like light path expressions and things like that, like necessarily. Like, you know, Arnold is definitely the most fully featured when it comes to all that kind of stuff.
I've been in Arnold for the past couple weeks, and I absolutely love it. Like it's got the a similar look to Octane and a similar like workflow in a way. Like if I want to deal with like transparencies and stuff like that, it's very similar to Octane. But it's got all the convenience of like subsurface stuff that Redshift has and the random walk, and it's so easy, you know. Of course, you still got to use nodes. I hate nodes.
Yeah, I did a project with Arnold a while ago. I just posted it on my YouTube actually, like the other day. It was super late, like a year ago. That was a ton of fun. I was using Arnold and Solaris in Houdini for the first time, and that I've gotten pretty heavily into. And you need to use it to use Karma in Houdini. Yeah, they. I found that it was like definitely like my favorite sort of like high quality look. It's definitely got amazing subsurface scattering and volumes. But it's definitely still like the slowest of all the engines, even in GPU, which is, you know, the trade-off. But yeah, I'm a big fan of still how they've kept up with Arnold despite the Autodesk buyout. They've like done a fairly good job with it. And they just added an update. I was just saying before the podcast started, where now if you're using Houdini or any of the other things that support Material X and USD, I don't know which ones those would be, but if you're using any of those, you can build materials with Material X, and now you can basically hit a button in Houdini and switch from Karma to Arnold, and all the materials, all the lights, all the everything will basically work. And so you don't really have to be as stuck to one specific engine for like the single project if you don't want to be
Material X. So they have Material X in Arnold now. Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah. So it's not just Material X that needs to be integrated. So I think Material X is integrated into a couple other render engines, but specifically this like USD Material X that allows you to build Material X materials in USD allows you to in Houdini with Solaris, which is like a USD based lighting, rendering, look dev context. It lets you just build materials in there, and they will work in Arnold. And they also Karma's built on top of that, so that you have to use Material X materials with Karma, basically. But yeah, if you build with those, then any engine that supports USD Material X will let you just switch to that. And Arnold just added the support for that. Otherwise, if they have just Material X support, my understanding is that you can go and download like Material X compiled shaders and stuff.
So does like a standard surface not is that based off of that, or
Material X has standard surface as one of the like Uber shaders in there. They also have like the Disney BSDFs and stuff, which are like a bit older, and everyone uses standard surface now, so just use that.
Because Redshift just updated. They've got the standard surface. I know Octane is getting on the standard surface stuff as well, so that they can do the multiple render engines in I don't know. That's cool. That's rad.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, Material X is awesome, and it'll be cool when they all support that, and you can. Dave's okay. He needs the Heimlich maneuver.
Dave, you need mouth to mouth.
Yes.
Yes,
well,
but not because I'm choking. All right. Okay, so you hate Deadline.
I'm not a fan. Yeah.
So
I
ask because
a lot of stuff to deal with.
I feel like every 3 to 6 months I'm like, I need to try out Deadline. I need to try and get it working because my main reason right now is like, so I love Octane because its network rendering is so freaking easy.
That's a big thing. Yeah.
It is the easiest thing in the world. I literally I pay for the enterprise one, so I've got like almost unlimited nodes. So I just throw it on every single one of my computers that has a GPU,
Yep.
And I can render.
I'm surprised more people don't know that.
Yeah. So you just need to pay for one enterprise license, and then you can use. They should mention that more. I did not know that. They got to have one for each computer.
The fact that you're combining
one
them.
Enterprise, and then you just have slaves on all your computers.
Yeah.
It's the way V-Ray used to work, and the way Team Viewer or Team Render works. As long as you're rendering, but it's like you have to have a license for all your Redshift ones,
but
and
it's
Arnold,
also
you
your
have to have
viewport.
all your. Yes, it's also in your viewport.
People
as
don't
well.
realize that. I swear, like people, I'll be showing someone something, and they'll be like, "Wait a minute, you've got 6 3090s in working your viewport." I'm like, "Yeah." Oh, how do you set that up? You literally click a button.
It is.
It's
so easy.
It's crazy to me that Octane has had that for so long and it works so well, and just nobody else has anything like that.
I know. It's like that is the biggest downfall I think of other render engines is that like I now have a license of Arnold, but if I want to render on my other 3 computers, I need to buy 3 more licenses of Arnold.
Well,
and I don't want to spend that much money on it. It's
That's
like
insane.
It's
What
an
about
insane
Hydra?
amount of money.
Is Hydra gonna take care of that?
I hope so. Maybe.
Hell, Hydra.
Wouldn't that be great to be able to build something one time in Arnold on my machine and then render everything out in Octane? Using that. That'd be pretty killer. I'll have to ask Jules about that. I need to make a note. But it's like I'm now stuck to these 2 3090s, and I've got 5 other cards that I could be using.
Right, and you got to go to Deadline if you want to do anything.
Exactly, but the thing is, with
sucks.
Deadline, you still have to buy licenses for
and you
every
still
single
won't get
machine.
it in the viewport.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Frustrating. So.
And that's why I love it, because I'm sitting there in the viewport. When I'm ready to render, I click the viewport to be like not scaled, and I just let it sit for a second, and I'll maybe take a section and figure out how many samples I want, and then I'll just sit for 30 seconds, and it will give me a readout, and it will say, this is going to take about a minute and a half to render this.
Yeah.
And then I can just calculate it, hit Shift R, and go to bed. And I know how long it's going to take, and it will be done. And having that speed in your viewport when you're trying to build a massive scene.
Yeah. I will say the scene that I have built out in Arnold has been surprisingly fast for only being using 2 cards, you know? So, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not throwing...
I haven't used it for a year also, so it could have gotten significantly better since then. Who knows?
I mean, I'm using GPU as well, so just rendering GPU. It's interesting the way it works because, like, you know, you're just throwing more samples at it. You know, you can't fine tune it like you do with the CPU one. You know, and so it's just like, all right, and then you set it for adaptive sampling. You know, adaptive sampling, and then you up the maximum amount of samples or the maximum amount of passes or whatever, and it's like.
I would love to see people.
I'm doing 100 passes now. You know,
I want to see Maxon do that for Redshift because it seems like it would be a lot easier to do if you own the software and the engine.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
It seems like there should just be a button to turn it on. You know. But.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting really good at GeoGuessr, like that guy.
What's GeoGuessr?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice.
I was like, what kind of 3D platform is that? No.
Those people can do it blindfolded. Have you seen that?
I've been at.
How would you be able to do it blindfolded?
You click and people will describe what they're seeing and you will guess it. Yeah, it's insane. If you're listening and you haven't seen.
I'm curious. Is this like the GeoGuessr? Does it just have the same locations over and over again, and you've just played it enough? Like back in the day,
you in a
playing
totally random place.
Trivial Pursuit over and over and over again, you learn all the answers.
Anywhere in the world, it's just using like Google Earth.
It's so interesting, and I've also just been like really into, for some reason, doing like map quizzes on like just trying to figure out all the countries in Europe and shit, and I don't know, that's been a fun thing to do while I'm waiting for renders recently. But I don't know, that's been
you want to learn the country before you do that, because
exactly,
you have to know the name of the country before you can guess that country.
And they
I saw this TikTok of this woman who was in Italy or something, and she wanted to go to a specific place, and she had played Assassin's Creed so many times that she knew the exact layout of the city, you know, to a T. And her mom was freaking out. She's like, "You don't know where you're going?" She's like, "No, I know exactly where I'm going."
That's funny.
Yeah, man, that stuff is so impressive. I've learned about a lot of cool places recently just through, I don't know, looking at maps and like being like, what the heck is this? What are the Faroe Islands? And now I really want to go there. That's like islands between Scotland and Iceland, and it looks like the most beautiful place ever.
And you can be an island boy.
Exactly. The Faroe Island boy. Yeah.
Faroe Island boy.
Anyway, that's been a weird obsession recently, but seriously, what's next is I would love to just like make another personal project, whether it's a short film that I do in like, you know, a week or 2 weeks or whatever. I need to work on my own stuff a little bit after working on this pilot for so long.
Are you doing anything with Adult Swim still?
Oh yeah.
The pilot is with them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. I was thinking a while ago I would love to like and me and DJ Doug Pound were, I think I can say this, we were talking about like trying to pitch the March of the Ding Dings short that we made as like a kids show that we could develop more with. Like that would be super fun. But yeah, I've also been getting really into Womp.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up.
What is Womp?
Sure.
It's this web 3D software, womp.com.
Oh, right. Site. I think you mentioned it a few weeks ago or something on the stream when we ran.
I really like it. It's basically a SDF based software for modeling in 3D. and that means that it's not using any polygons, it's not using voxels.
Right.
It's just using these sign distance functions. So like basically like here's a sphere, here's the code to describe like a box, here's the code to describe a curve or whatever. And so it's actually using a really small amount of data. I did this big NFT project like a year ago on art blocks that was kind of like this, and the idea was that the all the stuff on art blocks, it needs to fit onto the Ethereum blockchain. So so it needs to be like a very small file size. So we made this project that was like all these characters, these 3D characters, and like it's called Kaigen, and there was like this whole city, and there was like various different kaiju monsters attacking the city, but we like had to make the entire project fit in like, I think we fit it into like 50 kilobytes of code, which would be impossible with polygons.
Yeah.
But when all you're describing is like, here's a sphere here, and then here's another sphere here, and then blend between those two a certain amount, and then subtract this sphere out here, and then add a box for this part, and then whatever, that like is a lot less data than describing like here's a million polygons that make up this sphere, and then stretch those out over here, or blah blah blah, whatever. So that's kind of interesting, but at the same time also anyway, the WOMP stuff is cool because it's built on that kind of stuff. You guys have ever seen like I'm gonna butcher his name, but Inigo Quiles? I think you guys have seen his stuff before. It's INIGOQUILEZ. Is this graphics coder guy? He made shadertoy.com, and he's made all of these videos of like how to create like various different things just using math. If you look up Inigo Quiles maths, painting a character with maths is like a one that he did a year ago that was really impressive. You guys should definitely look up, but it's basically like he's just using code to create like a character out of these different shapes and things, and using SDF, technology and ray marching together to like render it live. And it's like able to make like really impressive stuff with a very small amount of data that renders live in your browser and like looks amazing, and like and it's like really, really cool and impressive. Anyway, like that's sort of the technology that WOMP is built on. But in addition to that, the other kind of interesting thing about it is that they are also rendering everything live server side with like ray tracing and stuff. So it looks really nice into your browser. So you're always working live. And I think that one of the really cool things about WOMP is it's kind of the most intuitive, easiest to get into 3D stuff that I've ever seen. I've sent it to a bunch of friends who just do like 2D stuff, 2D animators, illustrators, whatever, graphic designers. They're able to get into it literally without watching any tutorials and like make some really cool stuff with it that looks like amazing. And I think that there's a couple reasons for that. One is like it's just very intuitive with you're just using these different shapes and doing Boolean operations, and that's a much easier way to think than with like polygons, where you're like manipulating all these points and have to understand like subdivision and normals and like all these different things that are like super complicated and like hard to wrap your head around at the beginning. So that side of it makes it easy from like a modeling standpoint. And then the fact that it's also always rendering the final kind of like style, like this fully ray trace thing all the time, means that there's no like disconnect between like, okay, how do I render my thing? What I'm working with in the viewport isn't like what I'm actually making, and then there's weird disconnect there. The fact that WOMP is just always what you see is what you get, and it looks really good. Can
you do animation in it?
You can do really basic animation in it right now. They're working on adding more complex animation. They're working on adding a whole bunch of other cool features and stuff and making it more complex, but it just came out like the alpha version. And so you can go on, it's free to use. You can make an account and post stuff on there. They do fun little challenges and stuff too. And to me, it's like, as a person who does 3D, it's just like more than anything else, like this is a fun little challenge for me to like see like what can I make with this, like how can I mess with this, what can I do with this, just like play around and like especially because it's also rendering server side. Like I can like while I'm waiting for a render, just like screw around with it, and it's not going to like affect my render or slow my computer down at all.
Right.
So it's a fun thing
Yeah.
to doodle with and stuff for those reasons. And so I think it's a really promising little app for getting people into 3D. And, as someone who's also like a, educator and making tutorials and things like that, trying to get more people into 3D, always recommending people like, try out Blender or whatever. I think it's a great sort of like gateway into 3D, like for people who are just like really like technically concerned with like getting into software like Blender or C4D or Houdini or whatever. And so I really like that kind of aspect of it. But I think that also what they're doing is really interesting with this SDF technology and not using polygons at all, and has a lot of potential where like you hear a lot about nerfs these days. Those are not a polygonal like format for 3D geometry. Like actually WOMP is kind of positioned to take advantage of those kinds of things even better than like all this polygonal software like Blender and C4D and Houdini and whatever. So that's cool. But then on the other side of it, you have stuff like DALL-E and Midjourney and like all these things where we have text to image, and really soon we're gonna have like much more legit text to 3D. And I don't know if you guys have looked at all about like how the text to 3D tech works, but it's actually really interesting because the way that it seems to be working at the moment is they're basically saying, okay, we're gonna do a 2D generation of this image, and we're gonna do a few different of these, and then we're gonna basically feed that into like a NERF algorithm instead of feeding it in like a couple photos. Like if you don't know what NERFs are, it's basically like, think of photogrammetry, but you only need like a few photos, and then it uses AI to fill in the gaps and make a much better version.
Right.
And so this is basically doing that, but with 2D, images created with these like, dream algorithms, like, I don't know, the diffusion, models, like, stable diffusion, DALL-E, Midjourney, all that stuff. And so then that also positions WOMP as well to be able to integrate things like that. And so they'll make it so that you can, also just like text to 3D, add like a dog into your scene and say, oh, I want to change the dog's face to do this or that. And it seems like this could be kind of the direction that 3D ends up heading more in the future, is like polygons could end up becoming like a thing of the past, and they could become, go the way that NURBS went, NURB surfaces and stuff. And we could be getting more into this kind of stuff. So that's just kind of speculation.
Corridor did a thing on this yesterday.
A NERF
Really?
thing? Yeah.
Yes. It's neutral radiance fields. I haven't even been able to watch it. I bookmarked it this morning.
Neural radiance fields, yeah.
Neural radiance fields. And basically, I didn't get to watch the video, but you can just like take pictures and scan things or whatever, and it like fills in the blanks. Yeah,
NERFs have been like kind of the big hot sort of like computer graphics research topic for the past like 2 years or so. And it seems like now people are starting to kind of finally get their hands on some tools for it. But the text to 3D stuff will be huge. But any text to 3D stuff you see. Nice.
That's a nice frame to come up on there. But...
Oh my god!
Yeah,
whoa!
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's animated. Holy crap!
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, I gotta
like
watch
I've
this.
got to watch this. I don't even know.
They are doing crazy stuff, Yeah.
They're really cutting into the cutting edge stuff all the time. It's awesome.
But
Like,
what
I don't know
found...
if you saw the stable diffusion one that they did,
Yeah.
where they were creating stable diffusions based off of one of their, just a bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's really crazy the direction this stuff is going in recently. And I feel mixed about it, because I on one hand am stoked for it, and it's a ton of fun to mess with and all that. But on the other hand, I do see a lot of just like AI-y things, and you can tell if there's AI-y things or whatever.
I mean, Ren just took his drone and like flew it around himself and the scenery,
The buildings
buildings
So
like around their office, and wow.
yeah, I'm really curious how exactly this worked, but yeah, this is super cool.
The thing is,
It's the Star Wars hologram thing for real,
Right?
if you look at the description, it says why this is the future of imagery. So that's really why I want to watch it and see what their main points are on that. You know, like, yeah, it's good homework material for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, just when you think that 3D can't change and like everything, you've reached the pinnacle.
It's gonna be all over for us.
I'm an old
soon.
man. I'm old. You know.
Back in my days, we had polygons and we liked it.
Back in my days, we called them hyper nerbs.
Yeah.
But anyway, to round off my kind of point about Womp, I think that it's cool seeing them like make it more accessible. I do feel like 3D is going to become one of those kind of skills that just like everybody kind of has and is like a necessary skill to some degree, in the same way that like video editing has become like that, which like literally everyone knows how to edit videos. Like my mom knows how to, at the very least, like make, you know, like slideshows of her trips to, you know, Africa or whatever, and like, you know, like in a photo like thing, or, you know, kids know how to edit videos on TikTok. So all of that stuff is you know, just like kind of I think converge more into like a sort of universal thing that like will become more accessible and everyone will kind of get how to work with, and not just us super technical nerds who I'm sure will always have this sort of like, you know, greater understanding and be able to do more complex stuff. But at the same time, also, I think you see a lot of other tools that are kind of popping up similar to Womp. They're like web-based 3D tools like Spline. And there's also Bezel.it I've seen. There's also
sounds familiar.
Vectory, which has been around for a while actually, which is kind of the most C4D like one. They have like cloners and arrays and things like that. It's Vectary, kind of terrible name, but yeah, but they all seem to be kind of now, especially post Figma acquisition, like vying for this spot of being like the Figma for 3D, you know, and like that's like seems like to be like a big sort of like thing that like investors and stuff are like really interested in, like figuring out like what's going to become the Figma of 3D. I'd be really curious to see if any of the apps like Maya or Houdini or Blender or C4D end up making like kind of like simpler web versions that can work in the web and integrate and design things for the web and stuff. But I really like Womp's approach to making it just really accessible. Like I think I would be really curious to see, like, you know, I mean, I know you guys both have kids. If any of them were able to like figure out how to use something like this at all.
That's a good idea. I'm
gonna
show this to my kid, and I'm gonna have him create stuff.
You should, because it's not much different from like building something in Minecraft or whatever. Like it's very intuitive.
Right.
And if they do make it, please, I would love to know like what they think of it or what their sort of, you know, how it ends up going.
Crazy for this. I didn't even think about that. I'm stupid. I'm so selfish.
My daughter and I were experimenting last night or this weekend with some 3D stuff, and you know, she's used Cinema. She's created something in Cinema before, but it was kind of fun for her to sit and art direct me, and we made a little back room, you know, liminal space type thing, which was kind of fun. But yeah, like kids are gonna get into it. The thing is, you remember when that weird period when you're in, probably when you were in high school, and like there were like basic computer classes you had to take, like oh, well, you're gonna learn word processing, and it's like, yeah, I already know how to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like there's gonna be like you were saying about like everybody's gonna know some sort. There's gonna be a low level 3D that because everything's gonna be in AR and, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
Vectory is actually kind of cool.
It's kind of Vectory.
Yeah. You should. You
got
should definitely.
I mean, you got like literally
out.
like you drop it into a Boolean like you would in Cinema, you know, or
and
whatever.
Some of them let you do multiplayer like within the thing. Like I think Womp has that. Maybe it's just in beta with them or something. But I know that Bezel.it I was using that had that. Like you can, it's like Google Docs where you can all collaborate in real time and stuff. And there's a lot of potential there, I think. And it'll be I'm curious to see what will become kind of the Figma of 3D if one ends up winning out or something. But yeah,
Interesting.
there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. I think this is an interesting kind of developing area of 3D.
What is this?
Here's-
You sent this the other day, and I don't get it.
This is the back room that we made.
Oh,
the,
nice.
The back room things are just like weird, like
liminal space, yeah.
goofy liminal spaces that are kind of creepy in a way, like you know. So she wanted the slide, and we're like, what can we put in there? And I was like, something it has to be something retro. And so we were looking through things, and then we started talking about McDonald's Playground, and I'm like, let's just put something from McDonald's Playground in there. So we built a cheeseburger. You know,
You built that?
Oh yeah, it took like 2
looks
seconds.
great.
It's volume
Yeah.
builder stuff. You just throw a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. That's why I love volume builder for stuff, man. Just throw it together. Who cares if it's sloppy? It'll smooth
Yeah.
it all out in the end, right? Like, yeah.
That's the same exact magic of something like Womp too. Is it's like
Yeah.
it's all about just that simple building with simple building blocks and smoothing things out and blending them and
Yeah.
mushing them together and doing the smooth unions and stuff like that. It's the same kind of very understandable thing that I think a kid could really wrap their heads around,
Yeah.
like no problem,
Yeah.
versus something like Blender or whatever.
And I
Yeah.
taught her about like how to do the like that slide is completely procedural. You can just move one spline because we wanted to build it. We looked at Turbo Squid. You know, there were like $15 ones that sucked. There were $60 ones that also sucked. And we're like, no, we need to be able to have bolts on it, and it needs to have these things, and it needs to go this like so. We just sat there and built it in like 20 minutes, and I showed her how you do, you know, sweeps, and then you have things follow splines, and then we're done. We brought it into this scene and just like literally shaped it how we wanted it to shape. And she really like picked up on the concept, you know.
That's cool.
So yeah, anything that makes it easier, you know, kids are gonna pick it up in 2 seconds, you know.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they
Totally.
are. That's cool.
Anything else? Anything else we want to talk about before we head out? Any questions from the audience?
I feel like we could talk for hours.
I know.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
Like
I know.
it's a
Have to
shame
just
we
do
don't
another
see
one,
more
I
of
guess.
each other. I know.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to do it again. Yeah.
I think I wrote a couple notes down for something to talk about, but I think we got to most of it. The one other thing I wanted to mention, I guess, was like I've been really impressed, and like it's been really cool to see. I think in the Blender community, which I've been like dabbling with Blender here and there, but I'm not. I'm not like ever gonna really be like a Blender guy. I don't think. You know.
Yeah.
Do you know it's free?
What?
Well, why'd I spend so much money on it?
Right.
Yeah.
You bought it off of blender.gov.
Blender.biz. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And,
if you type in
all
Blender
the
3D or
plugins.
whatever, there is a ad for Blender, but it's a paid one. You know?
Oh my god.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
by the time you get all the plugins to make up for it, you've spent a lot of money. So you know.
Right.
I've been really impressed with though I mean it seems like everybody Maya or Autodesk I should say and C4D and Blender, all three of them are trying to do these kind of like new like node based paradigms.
Yeah.
Like and Blender geometry nodes is like really taken off.
I have
Maya,
been so impressed by Blender geometry nodes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really what I wanted to talk about. Was like it's been really cool to see that, and I've seen people recently have started. They found this sort of like buffer geo hack, I think is what they're calling it, and Tagma just did a tutorial on it that lets you basically sort of like feed the previous frame into the next frame, and that allows you to basically do the equivalent of in Houdini if you have a solver. And you can make like very custom simulations with it. So now people are building custom simulations in Blender with GeoNodes. And I think Intagma just did a tutorial that covers this that you can check out for free now. But
in
it's
Blender?
like
They did a
in Blender,
tutorial in Blender? Neat.
Oh, they've been doing more Blender tutorials because one of the two of them is teaching CG at some university in Germany.
Gotcha.
And
They are fantastic, but I cannot do their tutorials. They drive me insane because they are there's no fluff. There's zero fluff, and there's no explanation half the time on why you type in this number and then do this, and then type in this number and then hit this button. Okay, you're done. And whoa,
It
let me
depends.
rewind.
It depends. Because sometimes it's Mo just going through like a setup, like here's how I made this, and then he's typing in like the exact value I found that works for this is like 7, and I'm just like, why don't you show us why you figured out that 7 worked? Like what were the things you were like, you know, that part is frustrating. But Mo is also,
me, bro.
You know, he's great sometimes as well.
That is one of the hard things about tutorials. I feel like I would have learned a whole lot more getting early on in this, you know, if people had like explained stuff to me, you know, instead of like for I always go back to the example of like, you know, Luma stuff, black and white images, you know, affecting certain things. It took me like 3 years to understand.
Well, that's always been the
like
big
before
thing.
I realized.
Yeah, that's always been the big thing for me is for me to like actually like use something and like for it to be useful to me, like I feel like I need to actually understand how it works, what are the core concepts here like that are creating this thing this way and like allowing this thing to work, which is also why I think I love Houdini so much, is that it's like you really need to understand how everything works, and like you kind of, it shows kind of the under the hood of like this is how all 3D works and all the programs and stuff, and it kind of just helps build that understanding more, and it allows you to do anything with any other thing. So you can drive velocity with your normal attribute or this or that or whatever. So yeah, definitely like and it's also for me, I think when I'm teaching is like a really key thing is like I'm basically just teaching to these people the way that I wish that it was taught to me, where it's like here's why this is this way and how this works or whatever, and like the under the hood of it, and it will take a little bit longer to wrap your head around, but you'll have a much better understanding of it. Same with like math class back in the day too. It's like if you understand how this works, you don't need to memorize anything, because you can just logically follow the steps.
That was my biggest problem with math. I never knew how it worked. You know,
they're so bad
once I got into calculus, it's like I didn't understand.
Yeah, what's calculus?
Yeah, totally. I think that's the thing for a lot of people is like a lot of people, they just didn't teach it well enough and they just lost it kind of early on. Like, and once you lose track and you're like you feel like you fall out of it, you're screwed for the rest of the year at least.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah, when I used to make tutorials back in the day, you know, I would try to explain things that way and say and stop and say, but everybody wants, you know, 30-second TikToks on how to do stuff now. So
yeah,
I feel like we're losing some of that, you know.
I don't know. I have seen a lot of people on TikTok who are like, hey, this is a really quick rundown. If you want to see the full video, go to my YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right.
How much that translates, you know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Get a few viewers, maybe.
Yeah, I really want to talk through every aspect of all that stuff. And yeah, I think that's also when you're asking what's next for me, I think definitely doing some more tutorials, because I have been wanting to for a while, especially diving into more kin effects rigging stuff in Houdini, because there aren't a ton of tutorials around for that I've seen. I think more people want that. Yeah. And digging into more Solaris in Houdini and Karma and all that stuff, because I've been really liking that, and I think that I've learned so much from. We've done this whole project in Solaris with Redshift, and if I go back and look at the files that I made at the beginning of the project, I'm like, I am such an idiot. But like now that I understand it correctly, I think next time it'll be a lot easier. And you know, it'll be a lot easier for me to like explain it and teach it to someone else now. Yeah. So yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I'll also do some streams and stuff on like Womp, or maybe I'll play that Shrek Mario 64 skin on Twitch or something like that.
Please do.
I don't know.
Well, and you can go live on TikTok now. You know, you got enough followers, so.
Yeah.
I just rehooked up my my Twitch account, and actually for this Metroid thing I've been working on, I've just been I'll throw on the live stream and just, you know, work while I'm doing it. You know, it's been nice. No one shows up, you know, but it's been cool to kind of have that there. I had one person show up once. I
like Twitch streaming a lot, trying to learn stuff. I think that like I had a couple Twitch streams where I was like, I'm gonna try to learn Blender and mess around, and then I'll have people in the chat who know how to use it, and we'll be like, oh, you got to do this thing this way, and it's like kind of the fun way to learn stuff with people. Yeah. I also did a stream a while ago where I streamed. I downloaded Bryce 3D, which I learned that you can pay you can pay $20 for, and it still works on modern Windows, which is
Wow.
That's
awesome.
hilarious.
And it renders stuff in the craziest, coolest way, and it's the most weird like UI that looks like a video game, like from the '90s, like or like a Myst or whatever, where there's like
Right.
like it's like the skeuomorphism where they have like the actual 3D like buttons and stuff that you're clicking and like they're pressing in and things like that. Like
Yeah.
it's so weird. But that was
Yeah.
so fun to mess around with and learn on like a stream. And I ended up making like a really dumb little short on my YouTube that I can link you guys just like that day when I was messing around with it. And I haven't opened it up again.
Do you think skeuomorphism will ever come back?
I think it will. I think it's cyclical, that we'll just keep going back and forth between skeuomorphism and whatever non-skeuomorphism is supposed to be called. But
Like maybe it will come to AR or something. I hear a lot about, especially Apple with skeuomorphism was a way to get people into the tech, and then now it's there. You just erase that, and the buttons are just left, and everybody's like, okay.
I feel like once they went totally flat with iOS 7, they started slowly integrating in a little bit more skeuomorphic elements and stuff. And I think it's kind of like a trend that is like a cyclical thing, and you'll see, because I got so sick of how flat everything was looking with like the latest versions of iOS and Android and like Windows 8. Ugh, like just give me a break. I want the old school. I'm so nostalgic for the old school Mac and the old school Windows 95 and you know, the old iOS and stuff. Like I want more stuff like that, you know. So yeah, but Bryce is super fun, and I highly recommend anyone who's curious to make some weird old school landscape renders, dive into it, and you'll have a blast. I think
Remake the Shrek movie in it.
Right.
Absolutely. You can't do like any kind of character animation in there. Like you can't bring in animated FPXs. Like you can only translate objects around and stuff. But the way it renders stuff is just so cool. I had such a blast in there. And yeah, so I want to do more streams of just figuring out silly things. Also, Touch Designer I was messing with and had a blast with. I don't know if you guys messed with that at all.
Oh yeah.
That one's the quickest I've gotten into a software, and like immediately started having a ton of fun with it.
Same. As long as you know nodes, you're good to go. It'll make sense. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
I did some experimenting with that a couple years ago. It's pretty intuitive.
Yeah, it's the thing I think about it is that it's so fun, but it is just not practical for commercial stuff in very many situations, unlike something like, you know, C4D or Houdini, where it's like you can use this for so many different kinds of projects. Touch Designer's like basically only like tour visuals or like weird art installation things or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're having an event, it would be a ton of fun to make like a fun interactive Touch Designer thing with like a Connect that you can feed into it and have the music be driving some visuals and let people walk in front of it and just have it be a fun, weird, interactive live thing for a space where you have actual people. I think people should do more stuff like that.
We should do that next year when we do events. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, it's easy to use. I posted some stuff a couple years ago. I was doing a little thing that would track pool balls on my table.
Yeah. I remember you doing that.
It's pretty easy to do with a little Connect, and it's nice. And it's the baby brother of Houdini, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's basically good at everything that Houdini is bad at, and bad at everything that Houdini is good at. So like all the 3D stuff and like the simulations and things like that, it's not great at. But compositing, you know, real time stuff, like it's really good at all those things.
Well, it was the Houdini brothers, right?
Exactly.
It was the guy. It was either two guys that started Houdini or brothers or something. One of them went off to do Touch Designer. Is that right? Is that just lore?
Well, it's funny that the company that makes Touch Designer is called like Derivative, because they're like, we're making a derivative of Houdini called Touch Designer, and they were the same program called Prisms way back in the day, and then they split off, but they still got the cops, they still got the sops, they got all those
the mops and pops and bobs.
No mops. Mops are a separate thing, right?
Yeah.
That's Toadstorm's toolkit.
Yeah, there's some urban legend that whoever was working on it, the two guys. One's like, no, live, it's where it's at. And the other guy's like, no, peanut butter in my chocolate. You got chocolate in my peanut butter. That kind of a thing.
Kim Davidson is like the CEO of Side Effects, I know, and he made I looked at this recent, or I found out this recent thing because I was at the Annecy Animation Festival. And I did a talk for Houdini there, and one of the devs was telling me about this amazing old show that was only in Canada, which is where Side Effects is based, called Monster by Mistake. Which you can look up, and it's this crazy old 1996 3D animated TV show that was all animated in Houdini all the way back then. Wow. Highly recommend looking it up. It's a wild thing. But yeah, this was like Kim Davidson's baby at the time, I guess. But yeah, I don't know exactly the story behind Touch Designer splitting off from there. I just know that they were the same program, and then they had a clash over, like, I think Houdini wanted the compositing to be more like, what Nuke ended up being. I also learned recently that Houdini's Cops compositor was like pre-Nuke. So like Nuke was really inspired by that to end up go and do the compositing stuff. And now apparently they're hiring a compositing software developer. I think they're looking to redo all that stuff and maybe try to see if they can kill Nuke finally.
Yeah. Gosh.
So if anyone's a compositing software developer, hit up Side Effects. But yeah, it'll be curious to see in a few years if that ends up coming to fruition and how it ends up doing. But yeah, I'm excited about that potentially.
Greg Hermanovic he was head of R&D at Omnibus Computer Graphics, co-founded Side Effects. Got 2 Academy Awards, and then said, I'm out of here. And then he went on to start Derivative.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if the brothers thing is true, or co-founders, or whatever.
I mean, they have different last names, so I'd be surprised if they were
Houdini brothers.
You can call them the Houdini brothers.
Harry Houdini, and just making it all up as we go.
Kim Davidson and Greg Hermanovic.
Yeah. Anywho, cool, man.
Good stuff.
A lot of stuff to soak in, a lot of stuff to think about, a lot of homework to do.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to do another show, man, because I love these episodes because we can just keep going, and that's always the best. It's better than having nothing to talk about.
Why don't we do one once when this pilot comes out? Hopefully beginning-ish of next year. I can't say when, but hopefully I didn't already say too much about the show.
Pilot it hasn't been greenlit for production.
It has not been greenlit for a full season. Yeah, it's just the pilot. They just got the pilot made, basically. So we'll probably find that out soon. Also, I think for me, the way that I'm feeling, especially being so exhausted from the pilot, is if it gets picked up, great, we'll figure it out. If it doesn't get picked up, great, I'll work on other stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Cool, man. Awesome.
Well, appreciate you being on and taking the time. People want to find you online. Where do they need to go?
Yeah, always a pleasure. It's if you go to Christopher's.website, that will give you links to pretty much all my stuff, or Tokyo Megaplex on Twitter, if that still exists. I think it'll stick around probably.
Yeah.
Or
Musk will sell it for like $1 billion.
Yeah, I have a Mastodon account that I already forgot the name of, so don't bother adding me on there.
Yeah.
Is it on Toki Megs on Instagram? But yeah, you can find me. Just Google Chris Rutledge or animation, whatever.
I didn't know that .website was a thing until I saw that address. Christopher's .website.
Take advantage of it.
I love that it's in plural.
Yeah. It's like Ruth's Chris.
Right.
Exactly.
Ruth's Chris.
All right. Well, again, questions for next week. Jules will be on. We're going to get super nerdy. You know how it goes on that show.
Yeah.
So rate us on iTunes. Leave a review. Help get our ratings up. You can say you've been there, done that. Got the T-shirt with the Mograph logo tee. The Paul Babb Feel the Bab 2020 shirt. We still got it. All the profits from that
No
go to
doubt.
Doctors Without Borders.
Yep.
Render Things t-shirt, hoodie, long sleeve tee, Mograph blandishment shirt, and the That Render is Fire shirt, which you're only allowed to wear ironically. Unless you're shams.
Yeah.
And remember, we are on youtube.com/Mograph, Mograph.com. Check us out on Mograph.com/live for all the schedule information. We got some new guests coming up that we got in the schedule here. I don't know off the top of my head actually who it is because everything's a blur right now, so I don't remember when I scheduled people for.
Make sure and sign up for that newsletter too. We've got things that we're announcing in the next few months, and you'll want to be on that newsletter.
Yeah. Jules, and then Matt's actually going to be gone the next week, but we're still doing a show.
If anyone wants to come to Disneyland on the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th of December, I will be there with my family.
And we're going to do an episode with Darlene Sanchez.
Yeah, I'm jealous that I'm not going to be there for that. I love
that wasn't on purpose. I wish we could have worked it another way, but we're playing Tetris with the schedule,
Yeah.
But Chad Perkins is also going to be on the next week. And
That's
then,
exciting.
And then who knows at that point?
Who knows?
We'll figure something out. I did talk to Fuck Render yesterday, and he wants to
Nice.
come back on.
Yeah.
So we need to figure that out as well. So that's
Nice.
always a good time as well. He posted a clip
saw
from
that.
our episode like a couple
Yeah.
years ago. So
Talking about imposter syndrome and being in depression, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It was pretty cool.
yeah. Well, not the depression, but
Not the depression
The
part,
talk,
but the fact
yeah.
that he was talking about it. Yeah.
cool.
And everyone have a happy Thanksgiving for all
Yeah.
you Americans.
For you Americans, not you other people.
If you're
though.
if you're Canadian, you've already had Thanksgiving. So
Yeah. Cool.
you're into Christmas season now.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it up and get the tree out right
Yeah.
here. Right
I just
here
bought
next week.
I just bought a brand new tree, a brand new one, and then I bought it took how hard it is to find an unlit tree? Very
No,
hard.
I
It is
didn't think-
very hard to find an unlit tree. They're all pre-lit. And so I bought some of those twinkly lights, the ones that you can control with your phone.
Yeah.
And it sees AR and you can put different things on it.
Patterns.
I bought
and-
some of those, yeah. So I wanted an unlit tree because our previous tree, the tree was fine, but the lights were all broken. We had it forever, So it's either we leave the lights on there and restring new lights every year, or I just buy a new tree that's unlit and I'll just use it for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
It's a 9-foot tree. It's nice.
I got a couple trees up. Got a couple more to go.
Yeah,
So.
We just got ours up yesterday.
nice.
All right, Will. I guess that about wraps it up. We've said all the things. There's nothing else
Yep.
to say. So I guess we're going to get out of here. Thanks
Yep.
again, Tokyo Megs.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And until next time, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Tokyo Megs.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.
Okay, bye-bye. Nice. Oh, all right, I got to pee so bad.
So
but-
bad. So
But,
bad.
can
Yeah,
I
stay
we
on.
sit down for 5 minutes? I want to see your
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right back.